The Spoken Token is a proud member of the Pod Studio One podcast network.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into the big show. I am Larry Neal.
And I am Alex Wallace.
And we are the Spoken Token podcast. This is episode number 88. Hello, Mr. Alex, sir. How are you doing?
I'm good. Did you like my dramatic co-host intro? I am Alex Wallace.
I'm in awe of it.
I know. And I got a little bit of a sinus congestion, and so my voice is a little bit deeper.
You won an Oscar for it. It was the best intro tonight.
But you know what? No one would really know if I won an Oscar or not because nobody watched it, apparently. So you could be telling the truth, ladies and gentlemen.
Too funny. So tell me, buddy, what's going on with you, man? What's new in the gaming world? I think I see some stuff.
Oh, yes. So over the last week or so, I've been working, and so my job makes. I'm a theater teacher, and so when I get into play season, all other activities in my life stop.
Well, we usually lose you, so I'm glad we didn't.
This is true. This is true. Yeah, I mean, you have to you send out search parties Alex, come to my voice.
Yeah, we don't do that.
Okay, fair enough. But apparently, my brain was like, oh, I'm coming out of this season, and it's summer and board games. So over the last 2 weeks, this is the episode I hope Cynthia doesn't listen to.
Let's see.
But no, I got to the point where
working on that email right now.
After a couple of purchases, I was like, oh, bless, I have to start getting rid of something. And so I went home that day and I'm like, Cynthia, I need you to know I had to buy some board games and I am selling them at a yard sale.
Family meeting time.
Yeah, that's right. So when you start seeing it truckloads of boxes, understand that. See, what happened was
the mail truck is taking that many away, too.
This is true. This is true.
Well, I'm not mad at you. So what's some of the new stuff you got, man? Come on. Don't tease us.
Sitting in front of me, I got the new big box expansion for Marvel Champions.
Woo-hoo.
It's Galaxies Most Wanted. And I'm really excited about this one because up until now, Marvel Champions has really been focusing all of its attention on its character decks. It tried to do something a little bit different with the Wrecking Crew.
I thought so, yeah.
But it didn't really succeed. So they didn't really change
because of the villains they picked. That's my opinion.
No, absolutely. Your Wrecking Crew is the worst thing to own in Marvel Champions. Absolutely.
And I think the idea is fantastic, but again, the villains they picked.
Well, and so ultimately, what has happened is the villain pieces have gotten fairly stale. They've done some really, really fantastic stuff with the character decks, and I loved the narrative arc in Rise of the Red Skull. So this Galaxy's Most Wanted is another narrative arc. It's a big box expansion where you go through 5 scenarios. But what's cool about this is the win or lose con is no longer damage. So there's one where you're trying to get through the collector's library.
Yep.
And so there's
super cool.
So there's different triggers for in-game, so I'm really excited about seeing what they start to explore something.
You know what they're going to end up doing with Marvel Champions for those who come into it, let's say another, not even a year, let's say another 8, 9, 10 months. It's going to be so good and it's going to be so much, but it's going to be so expensive to get.
Yeah, and honestly,
all of it at that one
time. And that is the mantra of it. I've not been able to play it nearly as much as I want to.
Right.
And so, but because they're at a relatively decent release period, as well as they're not inexpensive for the single packs, hero packs. I'm just go ahead and give it to me. So, and Rick's just been, just picking them up when he can. Yeah. And because I know, when I get into it, my brain would be I need to get it all. Right. But now that I have it, it's much easier for me to just kind of enjoy it and not feel this sense of because I'm broken. If you haven't already assessed from.
Well, no, I mean, I think that's pretty normal, particularly with a product like this. And I think they did a good job with it. I mean, when it first came out and it got the inevitable, comparisons to Legendary, I knew from the first time we played it that, okay, you know what, I can own this. And I knew for me personally, I'm going to sit it on the shelf. And I'm not going to be too worried about it right now. Legendary is my favorite. This has really good potential. The way that the core game is designed, depending on how much they change it mechanically, it probably won't eclipse Legendary for me, or if it will, it'll be pretty close. But I knew they were going to go a really far way away from it. And I was quietly, I never even told, I was super excited about that. I was like, I'm just going to hold on to that optimism. And to see it blooming now is really exciting.
And I think what's cool about it is now that with new heroes like they just announced. So in this box, I believe it comes with, so your bad guys are the Collector, Ronin, Nebula, and Drang, and your 2 heroes are Groot and Rocket. But then they're going to, after Groot and Rocket, they're releasing Star-Lord and Gamora. And then after that, they're doing.
Got to make that money.
But no, but after that this is where I'm really excited. They're doing Agent Venom. Like, how C tier is that?
Well, I mean, if you read the comic books, probably not very at all.
But well, no, even Agent Venom is super C tier. So basically, because it's not even Eddie Brock.
No, it's not. Yeah,
It's Flash Thompson.
yeah. I was gonna say I thought he had a whole arc though.
Yeah, he did. But again,
In
like
the comic books, I
but
thought.
but they're now moving away from sort of like that Marvel Cinematic Universe kind of a comparison.
Great thing for me.
Right, exactly. So I'm really excited to see these kind of.
Well, I mean, you know what else is funny too? This is cool discussion. I bet another reason why they're doing that too. If you've got the formula and the sales are going pretty good, they're pretty much thinking, you know what, we can plug in just about anybody.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's in the Marvel universe.
Yeah,
We're not
granted,
gonna
they
make up
did
jokes.
Kamala Harris,
But if things
not
slow
Kamala,
down-
that is our vice president,
Kamala Khan.
Kamala Khan. Yes,
Yes.
not the vice president. They did not do a special edition with the vice president.
Oh, now the Secret Service is listed. They did what to who? No,
Huh?
but they can plug in any of these guys. But if sales start slowing down, then they can just swing back to the people everybody knows.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, or they can even put them on the roadmap
yeah,
and say, boom, hey, we're going to get them here.
yeah.
You know, so I mean, I kind of
Which actually they kind of did when Scarlet Witch came out.
Yeah, I know.
Scarlet Witch came out when WandaVision was coming out.
I know.
So I thought that was kind of cool.
We can't think that stuff's not connected, of course.
No. I mean, they at least get some kind of like.
Well, I mean,
Wink, wink, nudge,
the
nudge.
fact that, well, I mean, we've talked to our good friends before about, you know, the Warehouse 13, you know,
Mhm.
gaming. We were talking to those guys about that. So we know that, you know, the IP holders, and this is an active IP.
All right, so that's one I'm excited to get into. Now, the other one that I actually have on my the table right here in front of me is one that
You've talked about a lot.
I have talked about a lot, and just having it in my hand is a really cool thing. And
It's an
actually,
impressive box.
yeah, this game is actually sparked one of our discussions later on in the episode. But that is Red Rising, the collector's edition from
Woohoo!
Stonemaier Game. It's designed by Jamie Stagmeyer and Alexander Schmidt, and it's based on the Red Rising trilogy from Pierce Brown, which is probably one of my favorite pieces of science fiction literature of all time.
Right.
I mean, it eclipses even some of the classics for me. So I haven't had an opportunity to play it. It just came last week, and like I said, I was busy with my play at school. But I'm just so in love with this IP that this game could just be a complete dud, and I would still enjoy it. I would still enjoy it. So, but luckily, I've done a lot of research. I've read a lot about it, and so I'm really excited about it. But again, we're going to talk about that to an extent later on in the episode. I picked up Maglev Metro because it just needed to be in my collection.
It does.
I got another expansion from It's a Wonderful Life. I'm really excited about that. That's the drafting game. That,
Oh, yeah.
which is truly
That I
brilliant.
was terrible at, but it's great.
And actually, they just went on their Kickstarter for their 2-player version, which is
I
set
saw that.
in a fantasy realm.
I saw that.
I might have backed that one too.
I ain't mad at you.
Okay. And then
Hey, my Kickstarter, anywhere you see me making a comment on Kickstarter, it has said super backer for a minute.
super back.
So I don't have nothing to say
Yeah.
to you.
Uh,
Hey, woohoo, come on, join the club.
Yeah. And then
that's what we're doing, ladies and gentlemen. The drive to get Alex to earn his super backer badge
Nope.
on
Nope.
Kickstarter.
Nope. Because it'll be as soon as it says super backer on Kickstarter, like it will be super dead with wife.
Hey, man, it took me 10 years.
Oh, okay.
I literally just got that this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and my first game with them is on the table, and it was 2012, but I backed it in 2011.
Okay.
So it took me 10. I mean, you can do it sooner,
Yeah.
but I think if you do a certain number of backs within a short period, they give you that, or
Okay.
over time.
Okay.
So I've earned the overtime one.
I don't need that accolade in my life, and
get
especially, but I don't need it for my wife either.
Unless you stop playing board games, you'll get it eventually.
So I did use GameFound for the first time last week. So GameFound was born out of Kickstarter. It was sort of an entity that was used to collect money for Kickstarter, and then they sort of created their own Kickstarter rival. Larry is twitching his eye. So
yeah, I wasn't cool with the way they did it.
I understand that, and we've walked through that. But I mean, it is what it is, and it is where it is. And so I was on there just kind of peeking, and there was a really beautiful game called Stroganoff. And so it successfully funded on Kickstarter, but GameFound actually had it as a pre-order. And so I went ahead and got that. Basically, it's kind of art. I don't want to say reminiscent of Scythe because it doesn't have anything to do with giant monster mech things, but it does, but that whole kind of like paint style, early 19th century or early 19th century or early 20th century Russian kind of giant picture-esque, and ultimately you're a family and you're pushing your hunters to go out and find animal furs, and the mechanisms looked really, really cool. And so that was that. And then finally, and this is another one we'll talk about at the end of the show, I went ahead and one of my biggest gaming regrets is getting rid of Summoner Wars. Summoner Wars is...
I did not know you'd own that.
Yes. So early on in my board gaming life, so this would be 2012 at this point, 2013, I owned the original copy of Summoner Wars.
How did I?
And
we didn't know each other.
We didn't know each other at that point. So I got rid of it before you and I had ever met.
Yeah.
And so what happened was I got it because I wanted a Magic. I needed to get out of Magic, and so I needed a 2-player battler game, but I could never find anyone to play it with me. And I thought, oh, my son is 1, he'll like this, and so I bought it. Of course, that didn't stay. But so I got.
Oh my God!
I got rid of it.
That is awesome. Does Jack know?
No. I got rid of it.
I had to come by the house, man. Next time I see him, we gotta sit down and have a talk.
Like, listen, your daddy used you for a lot of things. But so I got rid of it, but for the last 3 or 4 years, I've been trying to track down a copy because ultimately it's a really well done, pre-built deck that has.
When Dave closed Roll the Dice, he sold his copy.
I know.
It was like $10.
Let's don't.
And I almost bought it.
Don't remind me. But now, just the base set, it goes for $90.
Well, the original one.
Yeah. And so, Plaid Hat Games is actually re-releasing. Whoa! I broke Larry.
You said Plaid Hat, and it made me think about maybe Phoenix Born. Some stuff could have happened, and I don't know. The reprint I don't know.
Did you buy the reprint?
I don't know what happened.
Did you buy the reprint of Phoenix Born?
I don't know what happened, man. I was sitting there.
I love that game.
And when I woke up, stuff was moving.
Do you own it? Is it in your house right now?
No.
Is it coming? When's it coming?
The microphone has me scared now.
Okay, because I love that game. And that was another one that, again, it was another 2-player battler game.
So good.
It's such a good game.
Made my twitch.
It's such a good, and again, it was when I was trying to get out of Magic.
And it's Plaid Hat.
Nobody would ever buy it or never would play it. So
I played it with you and loved it. And
yeah, but again, I was in a dark time. I was like, if a game.
Cue the violins. Have we started the show?
I don't know. We haven't. But Summoner Wars. I did get in on that at so that's coming in, man. I'm really excited about that. And the fact that you got Ashes version 2, I am so excited about that.
Woo!
So excited about that. Woo! I did not know. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pumped. Larry that's awesome. That's awesome. I'm so pumped. I mean, unless you have something super important to say, I say we get into the show.
I do have one super tease, and then we'll get right into the show. Alex and I have been working on, and we have solidified that we are going to be playing very soon.
A board game.
And chronicling it.
Oh, bless, yes.
And then playing it back at a place to be decided, probably on our YouTube channel, but a tabletop RPG with a table full of people. A DM, Alex and I will both be playing. Neither of us will be DMing the game. We're going to both be playing. I'm not going to tell you which system, but we do know it's set in space.
It is not my Christmas system.
It is not, and we are super excited. Stay tuned for that. That's going to be a real thing, and you know what? We better hit the show. Hello, and welcome to the Spoken Token Podcast, episode number 88. This time, Alex and Larry bring a super good list of games for games in a series. They go under the hood on game depth and replayability, and they each take a look at a game in their collection and so much more. So, sit back, relax, dust off that one free space on your shelves for that new game that's already on the way, and turn us up as we join your hosts, Alex Wallace and Larry Neal.
And for those of you who have not left us after that super long intro, we are back.
You've won another Oscar, sir.
Ha ha ha! I'm on a roll.
He's 2 for 2.
2 for 2.
So what are we doing this segment, Char?
I'm looking at your number 1, and I did not include one of that because I thought that would be cheating. But
it's not.
It's not. So Now that I've given you that allure of mystery, what is Alex talking about? There's a list. Is there a list? Does it mean could they do? Does it mean it's not just good, but super good?
Woohoo!
Yes, then if you guess that, you are correct. For those playing the spoken token bingo at home, this segment is where we do not create a list of a top 5 or a top 10 or top 7.
Too many.
Too many.
Cream of the cream.
Cream of the cream. Larry and Alex are just super lazy, so they'll only do 3.
You let the truth slip out, man. You were supposed to hold part of that last sentence in. Everything was just like we rehearsed it. But then you told the truth for a second.
Stop. We don't rehearse squat.
Edits! No, this time we are doing a really cool list. Alex had a great idea. And you know the thing I love about it? For one, we absolutely love this segment.
That I have a great idea every now and then.
No. You had a really great idea for a segment that we do a lot that I love that's extremely challenging. And it's one of those things that is such a simple thing that I completely am guilty of. I've always overthought this segment.
Okay.
Compared to how good this is. I mean, you just rattled it off. You say, hey, how do we do the best 3 games within an established series? Not just a retheme or an expansion, but games in a series. And you rattle off and I'm like, that's the smartest thing I might have heard this month.
Oh, well.
How did I not think about that? Because that is fantastic.
So what?
And then I started looking through my collection and going, oh, this is hard as to wait a minute, man.
Yeah.
So it was great.
So why don't we let's instead of just saying it in a mocking tone,
I wasn't mocking.
I know, but
serious.
it sounded mocking.
What?
I felt mocked.
Your ears are broke.
I have been mocked. Carl, he mocked me.
Well, I do, but I didn't just then.
Do you? Okay, well, I feel mocked. So, all right, again, why don't you clarify for our audience what exactly we are listifying today, sir?
Yeah, we're listifying games that are part of a series of games, not necessarily a retheme. So Star Trek Expeditions and Mage Knight, that's a retheme.
Correct.
So
yes.
not those,
Right.
right? Not expansions. So, version 2, but we're doing games that are a part of a series. So there's a series of games where they've gone out.
Either in the same universe or they're connected some way.
Right. Same play style, same mechanics.
Yeah.
Again, not an expansion. Again, maybe it's the same system tweaked a little bit in a little bit different setting.
Right.
I think you'll see with the list, and it's really, really brilliant. Why don't you, well, you know what, you brought us in, so I'll get it started.
Yeah, you get us started, because I might have forgot my list.
So my first one is one of my first, probably the first true Hex war game that I put into my collection. It's not the deepest type of Hex encounter war game out there, but it's a really neat system. I actually think you probably would enjoy it. And that's Conflict of Heroes, Awakening the Bear. And of course, this is by Academy Games. And they have done, this one is Russia and Germany. So it's when Germany invades Russia, set in World War II. They've done it Guadalcanal. They've done it in Europe. So and each part of the series of games has a few tweaks to the system based on the theater of combat. So again, I'm kind of geeking out, getting into my Hex encounter game love. As soon as you said that, and I was like, well, I don't know. And that's one of the first ones I thought of. I said, wait, that's part of a series, and I do love that game. It plays solo. I've got all the expansions to this. I got this for a birthday gift years ago with 3 or 4 of the boxes, actually. I just brought the main box. You guys will see it in the photographs. So that's my first one. At number 3, Conflict of Heroes, Awakening the Bear, Mr. Alex.
All right, so mine is fairly new to me, but I'm pretty excited about it. And that is Imperial Settlers, Empire of the North. So Imperial Settlers is kind of a drafting game, but Imperial Settlers is you have a pre-constructed deck, and it's a civilization card game. It's really simplified, some really cool mechanics. Your turn system changes every game, and it's just fun. It's quick, it's easy, but it does have a lot of depth to it. And so I'm going to say Imperial Settlers, Empire of the North.
Very, very cool. My number 2 is, I had to stop and think about it. And then when I realized that it's definitely standalone and it's part of a series, it can combine with the first game, which we didn't say that couldn't happen. But my number 2 is going to be Call to Adventure, the Stormlight Archive specifically. And I've got the deluxe edition. And of course, this is from Brotherwise Games. For those of you who don't know at this point, if you like storytelling in games, I can't say that this one is not for you, because it is, but this game isn't telling the story. It's setting you up to tell the story. And so as a part of this game and the original game, and then there's a smaller one, Stormlight Archive, of course, is named after a current fantasy novel that's out there, just like a Call to...
It's Brandon Sanderson, right?
Brandon Sanderson, yes.
Yeah.
And so, again, what happens is this game gives you cues. You pick a character, You pick a motivation, and then each round you're trying to draft certain feats. And I love it that the cards are nice and big, beautiful artwork. They're double-sided, so you've got 2 routes you can take with each card, and you're drafting the cards, and you're paying with the currency that you pick up, and you're trying to put together your character story from start to finish based on your character, and then your motivation stays hidden until the end. You flip that over if you got that. And then there's a lot of different cues in there for scoring. It's a beautiful game. It uses the runes instead of dice to roll, which is a pretty neat feel. They feel neat. They're very tactile. The art for me is evocative. I haven't read the series. I haven't read this one or the other one, the previous one, but I love the system. The system is a blast, and this is definitely one of my favorite games in a series. This when I first played Call Adventure, the base game, my first thought was, wow, you can take that system, man, and put almost any IP to it, and it would be so cool. And the mind was just racing, so they started announcing that they were tapping these current fantasy authors, and I'm like, I'm on board, because this will be great, and it has been fantastic. So that's my number 2, Call Adventure. Stormlight Archive, and again, mine is the Deluxeified edition.
Of course,
looks like a big box. I kickstarted it. No, I pre-ordered it from them directly.
But most games in your collection look like a big box, Larry.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm not wrong. All right, my next one actually took. I enjoy most of the Graphil / Renegade of the series. So basically, you have Raiders of the North Sea and Shipwrights of the North Sea, and then of course you have the now you have the Western Kingdom. And so, or West Kingdom now. And so I went through all of those. I've enjoyed their production value and I've enjoyed how they're all kind of in the same universe and take elements from each game, but try to create a new game. I've tried Viscounts a couple of times. Actually, Dave and I played recently. We played the cooperative version. There's a thing called Tome Saga where it turns all of these games into cooperative games.
Oh, okay.
So we played Viscounts, and that I liked Viscounts better as a cooperative game than I did as a real game. I don't enjoy Viscounts that much, but I enjoyed Paladins. But after thinking through it, for a while there, I loved Raiders. I thought Raiders was incredible.
Yeah.
But it didn't stick with me. So the hype was good for a little bit. So which leads me to my number 2, and that's Architects of the West Kingdom, which is interesting. As I sat and thought about this, this is the one that I was least excited about all of the series.
Really?
Yes, because I had such a high from the Raiders of the North Sea. This was the first of the West Kingdom, and it just was like, oh, it's kind of a worker placement like other, but it's worker reverse kind of deal, and it wasn't doing it for me. And then I played it the first time, and I'm like, okay, whatever. That was, cool, I guess. And then I played it again. And each time and then I played it again, and then I played it again, and it stuck with me as like it's the one that has the best balance of strategic decision making and also time of play. Like, I think Paladins is fantastic, but Paladins will burn your brain for a very long time. It's not a short game, and it is not an easy game to play through. But I think Architects has a cool interaction between different players. So again, you're putting workers out, and then you're pulling them back, and you get big handfuls of workers. And it was just a really, really neat system that I really enjoyed. And out of all 6 of those, it's the one that I kind of enjoy the best. So, and you know what? Since Larry's not at the microphone, I'm going to just go ahead and keep on going. And that's what you get, Larry. That's what you get for sneaking off on our listeners. I'm going to go ahead and go to my number 1, sir.
You can't take direction. I told you to keep going.
Yeah, no, well, I did keep going, didn't I, Carl? I didn't stop. So my number 1 game.
Note to all of you who may be working with Alex or depending on him, don't ask him to cover for you because he won't.
That's not. Yeah, that's true. You did tell me just to say something. I said lots of things.
I want you to keep it going.
All right. So my number 1 is, and this one actually surprised me
Me too.
As I sat through
really
it.
cool choice though.
Yeah.
Love
But
this game.
it's Trains by is it AEG?
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. So Trains by AEG, and it's
you haven't refreshed.
No, I haven't refreshed.
It's completely on the list.
Okay. So it's what is it? It's
Hisashi Hayashi.
Yeah, that guy. So I remember discovering Trains, and this was early days of Roll the Dice for us.
Yep.
But it was one of the first games that ever used deck building as a mechanism to interact with a board. And so it wasn't just deck building for deck building's sake. But now, after building that, they went from trains, then they did automobiles, and then they went to airplanes. So they did all three in a series. And actually, you could I think there's a way that you can interconnect those. But they all dealt with a deck building aspect and boards, and it was just great. But I loved Trains. Trains was such a good game.
You still own a copy?
No, because you own it.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, you own one, and so that was one as like I can get rid of this because it didn't see the table that often. But I do remember having you have my copy
Of what?
Trains.
No, I don't.
You don't?
No.
But because
My copy's in the black box.
oh, see, I got the black box copy too, and then I also got the Gen Con board that had.
I didn't know you got rid of that. I would have definitely loved to keep that.
But I thought I gave that to you.
Nope.
I gave it to somebody.
Yeah.
So
But
maybe Dave has my copy.
very possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and mine is in the black box. That was definitely
But see, I got
that was
rid
the
of.
highlight of that black box.
Yeah, absolutely. That was
AEG,
that was-
fantastic idea. The follow through after that first one
Yeah.
leaves a lot to be desired.
absolutely.
But guys, just come on back to us.
Listen, that first black box with Trains in it
Come on back to
was
us.
incredible.
Come on back to us, guys.
Yeah.
You got the library. Come on back to us.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
Loved the first black box.
Yeah,
I own 2 of them.
But then everything else after that.
The second one was not as good, but the second one had the same idea, but the execution had fallen down a little bit because they leaned on another property that really wasn't.
Yeah, and
It wasn't known and it wasn't that meaty. It wasn't that it wasn't known. They could have gone. In fact, I thought that's what they were going to do was give smaller designers or new designers a leg up in the black box. That makes perfect total sense. The game itself that they chose wasn't headliner material.
What was it again?
I can't remember the name of
Yeah.
it. That's part
But
of
again,
it.
that was the point. Is like they were instead of one big game, and then because there was 3 other smaller games which were fantastic. So you had Seventh Hero.
Yep.
You had the flicking or the card tossing games like Maximum something, and then they had a version of Guildmaster. Maybe that or Guildhall. No, they had Guildhall in the second box. I think.
I
is what
think
it was.
so. Yeah,
I think Guildhall was
because
the
that's
second
why I own it. Yeah, I believe so. That's the 2015 one.
Yeah.
Because they only did it 3 years.
Yeah.
2014 was that first year.
Yeah.
This is the red one. This is the
All right, we're
second.
completely off topic.
Second one had Bacon Wars.
Yeah.
Lost Legacy was in there. I did not realize Lost Legacy was in there.
Question mark?
Yeah, Adventure Time Love Letter without the Jake stack. Okay. Pretense, Empire Engine, Cold War Edition, which I remember that. And Who Stole the Cookie, which Christmas theme. And either had Asian Hunter or Cypher. I want to say mine had Cypher. I don't remember Lost Legacy being in that deck. I guess it is. I love Lost Legacy. So you know what? Box 2 wasn't as weak as I thought.
Well, it was for me because I hated it. There
I
was
mean-
nothing in there I liked.
Well, Lost Legacy is pretty well. I mean, for you, I can see it. And then again, I played.
Wait, Lost Legacy is the little card game. Oh no, yeah, no, that was why I was so upset with that because the box had they were all micro games.
Yeah.
They were all micro games.
Yeah.
And Lost Legacy is like a love letter sci-fi version of Love Letter that's a little bit more in depth.
And it had Adventure Time Love Letter without the Jake stack in it.
Yeah, I don't know what that means without. The
Well, Jake is one of the characters. I don't watch Adventure Time, but I do know he's one of the characters.
Okay.
But it was
Yeah,
another love letter game.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
another, like you said, they were
they're all
which
micro
again,
games.
I don't mind that either if it's a strong lineup.
Yeah,
But you got Bacon Wars, never heard of it since.
Yeah.
You got Pretense, I don't remember.
Again, I'm gonna say this a third time. You have not given your number one, not just good but super good.
Fine.
We have just been stuck on talking about the AEG black box for the last 5 minutes.
Well, it needed a minute.
It did. It we airing some things out.
We did work some stuff out.
That's right.
So my number 1 is Tiny Epic Galaxies. And this
See-
one is by Scott Almes, published by Gamelyn's Games, of course, released in 2015. This is part of a series, the Tiny Epic series.
And see, and I
those aren't sequels.
I walked through that, and you're absolutely right. But I questioned myself.
Right.
I would have put. I think I probably would have put maybe Tiny Epic Dinosaurs or Pirates. Pirates has been fun.
Gotcha.
It's
Which
kind
I
of like
haven't played yet.
It's kind of like an honorable
It's
mention.
Definitely one of my favorite. Well, I've got an
Yeah.
honorable mention, and it's on the table. My honorable mention is Welcome to.
Well, because that's a good thought. Because now you have Welcome to Vegas, don't you?
I own them both. We played
Yeah.
Welcome to Vegas this past weekend
How did
too.
that go?
Ooh.
What'd you play it on?
Board Game Arena.
Oh yeah. Oh, they have it on Arena.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Welcome to also.
Okay.
And we played that first twice.
Uh-huh.
It was so good. They're like, "Oh God, let's play it again." I'm like, "Okay, yeah," and we had a blast. So I'm like, "Well, let's play Vegas." And I was like, "Guys, it's late, and okay, I own it now. I haven't
Yeah.
played it. I remember reading the box and putting it back on the shelf. I wanted to, but I knew my sibs would never play that one.
Right.
They love this one.
Yeah.
It's a lot,
Yeah.
but in the moving pieces, when you get it all going, I'm glad I owned the physical copy of it.
Mhm.
I will absolutely, we will play it again. But like that first third of it, because we were still learning it, because again, it's been so long since I read the book. There, guys, it is definitely the grown-up version of Welcome to.
And Welcome to is not. It's not. I mean, it is. It's easy in concept.
1,000% vanilla compared to Vegas.
Wow.
Right.
Please tell me there's like a little Pawn Star building that, like, in Rick from there is just like, you want how much? I'll give you like $5.
I mean, but it's. I will say this about the Board Game Arena implementations. Also, since we're there, we won't rant as long this time because Alex hasn't played yet. The Board Game Arena implementation of Welcome to is brilliant.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
You hover over everything. The little pop-up comes and tells you what things do, tells you how to score, and it scores as you go. So as you're going through the game and you're making your moves, it's scoring at the bottom of the sheet. You can see, how that sheet works out. Vegas doesn't do that, which I don't mind that. I think we were split in our group. It was 3 of us, and two of us were like, yeah, I don't mind it. And the other one was like, no, I like to know because I like to know how good I'm doing. It's going, I can see that, but I don't care. But there are no tooltips in Vegas, the Vegas implementation. There are no rules, there are no call-out boxes, none of that. I mean, it still, won't let you do things you can't do, like Board Game Arena does, but it's not as helpful as Welcome to. So, guys, if you're listening and you're going to play it on Board Game Arena, if you don't have a physical copy close by or somebody who does have it first and foremost, do it because it's a fantastic game. Welcome to on Board Game Arena is perfection. It is so good. It is so good.
I mentioned this the last episode, but a buddy of mine who lives in Virginia, he's not much of a board gamer, but he and I've been meeting once a week on Arena, and we played Seven Wonders Duel, and that implementation is incredible. We played King Domino, which worked really well, but this weekend we played Lost Cities, just the card game.
Okay.
And gosh,
I love the board game too.
Man, talk about just a simple game. And actually, nope, I'm not going to talk about Lost Cities right now because I'm going to save that for the next segment.
Very, very cool. Well, all right then, sir. Well, that's it then for Not Just Good, but Super Good. Let's take a short break and hear a word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
We want to thank the sponsors of today's episode, our friends at Van Ryder Games.
Creators of award-winning games such as the single-player Hostage Negotiator and the One vs. Many Detective City of Angels.
You can find their full catalog of games, including their graphic novel adventures, at vanrydergames.com. That's VANRYDERGAMES.com, your FLGS, or wherever you buy your games online.
Welcome back, everybody, into the big show. Mr. Alex, sir, what are we doing?
Well, Larry, we are going to take a moment to check under the hood.
Ooh.
Yes, I love how you created this. It's like you were a mechanic in your past life. I can just see you in like kind of one of those blue jumpsuits.
Okay.
With your name. Hey, I'm Larry. What you got?
It's my brother Daryl and my other brother Daryl.
Yeah, it's my dad. Oh, Daryl, Larry.
Oh
Yeah, that's your repair shop, folks. But no, under the hood. This is where we, funny enough, we roll up our sleeves and talk about games from the perspective of their mechanics, the mechanisms that are present, and cover what some of the buzzwords may mean. We're not necessarily talking about buzzwords today, but we are talking about what I've noticed. So I frequent board game Facebook pages and other social media things just to kind of look and keep sort of my keep the pulse of the industry, at least from a consumer standpoint. And what I have noticed consistently is that there is a segment of people that will decry a game based on the fact that it's a pretty simplistic design. And what their issue is that they champion at games that offer maximum variability. So like you have things that will, certain spots that can change and flip. And so a game is different every time. And what I want to kind of just have Larry and I, again, we're just going to talk shop of this idea of like, the consumers wanting games with variability versus actually simplistic games that are easy to play, but maybe actually take quite a bit of time to master. Larry is already laughing. I know he's got that. Listen, folks.
No, man. I think this is a fantastic topic, and I was laughing because I was trying to pick where to start.
Well, let me finish because again, what I'm comparing the idea is like, and what really was the catalyst for this discussion is when I was doing my research for Red Rising. Jamie Stegmaier game. It's based on on another design, and I think it's like Forgotten Realms or something. I mean, maybe not Forgotten Realms. That's a computer game, I think, or a world or something. But it's another based on another game. But ultimately, Red Rising is just a simple card game. Where you either draw a card or you play a card so you can draw another one. And ultimately, what you're trying to do is you're trying to manage your hand so that at the end of the game, it scores the most points. And once you've played it once, there's nothing super new to discover. There's no new cards to add. There's no new elements or places on the board that change. And what I was seeing a lot of response to this is that, well, this is dumb. This game is, not dumb, but I mean, definitely like, oh, well, there's not a lot of replayability. And I think that's the heart of the issue, is that as consumers, when we are purchasing board games, replayability is huge. But we as the board gaming industry, we kind of, or not industry, as consumers, we need to understand that replayability can look different. Replayability does not mean variability all the time. I mentioned in this in the previous segment, Lost Cities. Lost Cities is an incredibly simple card game by Rainer Knizia, not Knizia, Rainer, the guy that has like 8 billion board games. No, because that's Corey Knizia. Please, Larry, I'm dying here. I can't even remember my own birthday, let alone this guy's last name. Help me out, my man.
Oh my gosh. Which game?
Rainer Knizia? Is it Rainer
Yeah, Knizia is
Knizia.
Yeah, he's a designer.
There it is.
Did he do?
He did Lost Cities.
Lost Cities.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
well,
one
then
of
you
his.
said it right the first time.
I know. I was saying I keep going Corey Knizia. So, which is another game that I purchased his new one.
Hey, my shirt is Battletech.
Yeah, I noticed that, but I did.
It's playing Ghost
was.
Bear.
I was just telling you that was another confession.
Came with my Kickstarter.
Yes, I see that.
Squirrel moment.
Yes, you said that last.
I'm
time.
actually wearing a T-shirt too.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, you look great. Fantastic.
Yeah.
I wish you were wearing your hat. Your little cool Newsies hat.
No.
Back to my very eloquent, wonderful rant.
Well, if you go squirrel, I got to go squirrel.
About replayability. Our idea that replayability is synonymous with variability, I think, is something that we need to kind of redefine. But simple games, I mean, I even go back to Onitama, or just games that are simple in design, yet there's something to be said that you have the opportunity to play it numerous times, and just every single game you can take one step further in getting, mastering that. And I think that's so one form of replayability is knowing, like checkers or chess. I mean, it takes a lifetime to master. And that, for some people, is a really cool thing, to be able to master a game. I know when I play with Cynthia and I ask her about a game, she loves to play the same game over and over and over, not because it's different each time, but because it is the same. There's comfort in that. And then she has the ability to get better and better each time. So I just wanted to kind of air that out. And my piece on this is that replayability is not synonymous with variability.
We are kind of saying the same thing. Probably going to be a little bit different, but this is what I wanted to say, which
You'll say it so much more eloquently.
In terms of where to start. And this is, for me, the focus for me is that the overall timbre of the market of tabletop games, bless you, differentiating itself, or rather retaining its separate identity from electronic games. That's kind of what we're seeing bleed over. And what I mean by that is we're talking about the propensity to identify replayability, basically what you just said, in different ways. Now, on the electronic game side, there have to be different mechanics. You're doing something just the way that they're designed, and part of it has to do with the way that they're marketing. We're not going to get into all of that now, but the way that they push the game at you is that you'll have all these millions of different things to do forever and ever, and it's going to keep changing. You can go into the system and you can get stronger and better, go deeper, go further, whatever, but it has to keep changing. And that mentality seems to be trying to situate itself on the tabletop side where it does not fit, because everything that you just said is 100% correct. Easy to learn or simple to learn, but a lifetime to master are hallmarks of the tabletop side, right? That doesn't work on the electronic side. Now, it's all gaming. As I've said before, I believe that there all is one overall genre of gaming within the subset of entertainment. You've got electronic and then you've got tabletop. But like what you were saying here, people saying, well, that game is not variability. They're trying to move to something different. Because of what you just said there right at the end, and when you were talking about playing a game, getting better at it, and a game getting better. If the game has too many mechanics, for one, when you're sitting at a table and you're setting that up and you're going through that, and each time you open it up, you can't get a handle on it because things are changing. That is the antithesis of a good tabletop experience. You're going to be frustrated. You're going to be like, wait, what is this mess? What's going on here? Also, too, let's look at the classics, right? And they get better with age on the tabletop side. Now, the electronic side has classics as well, but you look at those with a lens of nostalgia.
We're still playing Tetris, though.
Well, I mean, we are still playing Tetris.
No, and I'm saying to your point, we are still, like, Tetris is still being played.
And what I wasn't planning on putting this here, but it fits. And you know, you've heard me say this before, but it's been a while. I was thinking about this the other day when you brought this up. Good game design transcends the medium.
Absolutely.
I absolutely believe that that's a cornerstone of what I believe. Tetris is one of those because it has that simple to learn, easy to master. To me, that proves that they're so much closer intertwined. But the market, now that we've got a lot of electronic gamers, and again, they've kind of been herded down this way. So now I think that's who we're hearing from, that they're coming into the tabletop side and like, oh, no, this is not changing every 5 minutes. It's a tabletop game. It can't.
Yeah.
You know, it really can't. And again, in order for you to have any kind of a longevity with the game, to play it for a long time, it's got to have those set mechanics, and the depth is in once you start digging into it. That's why designing board games, you know, is hard. You know, because the good guys, the good ones, they don't just have a catchy name. You know, Tiny Epic is cute, but Scott Almes is one heck of a designer.
Yeah.
Eric Lang is one heck of a designer. Nietzsche is one heck of a designer. Corey Kanisa is one heck of a designer. The things that they're doing, if you sit down and you look at them, the 10th time you play it, it's revealing itself something different to you, but no rules changed. They built that in from the beginning.
Yeah.
Right? And that's, you're playing it and you're plumbing the depths of it through repeated plays is what makes it a gem, is what makes it a classic. It's like leather. It gets better with age, right? It doesn't wear out, you know, and not to put it derogatory, I know this sounds bad, but for lack of a better analogy, you know, electronic in this sense, what we're talking about, it's like plastic. The more you use it, it's going to wear out. You know, you're done. I'm okay. Played enough of this game. I'm ready to play something different. The same game in a different skin, but you know, again, that's the way they're being herded. But with board games, it is. You settle down into your nice leather and think, oh, I remember I bought this back in the 80s and it feels great now. Wow, it's 2020 and it feels amazing. Didn't feel like this when I bought it. I liked it then, but I love it now. That's the board game side because you've gotten to know it and you've settled into it. Can it work on electronic games? You already answered it. Tetris. You already answered it. Tetris. Yeah, of course it can. Again, the current market though. So I think that's why I put it that way, retaining its identity. So for you board gamers out there, everybody listening to us, whether you just came over from electronic games or you've been gaming as long as Alex and I have, hold on to that identity. We don't want those games. We don't want DLC. I don't want to pay $50 for a piece of a Tiny Epic game and then get DLC'd or microtransactioned into the rest of it.
Yeah.
Those are the things, and I know that sounds ridiculous, but trust me, if they can work it out, they'll do it. But those are some of the things that come part and parcel with that, because let's face it, less people working on a video game or a tabletop game than there are consumers. There are less simple math, folks. There are less producers than there are consumers. What does that mean? That means that no matter how much you produce, there are going to always be people that want more. They're going to consume what you do, and they're going to say, give us more. And so for tabletop, they've been able to say, oh, no, look again. Look deeper. Play a woman. Oh, look, you're not even using this. You know what? If you use this module with the game that's been on your shelf for the last 12 months that you've been playing a lot, look how that changes it. Oh, you've been playing it solo. Why don't you call a couple of buddies and play it multiplayer? You know, just, you know, hey, man, I know you like, I'm going to pick on myself. I know you like green. Why don't you play with the blue guy? It's like, oh, it's a totally different thing now.
No, it would be the same game, just different colors.
No, well, it depends on the engine. The type of games we're talking about have variable situations. So
don't use the word variable, because that's what we're trying to.
Well, like I said, they have asymmetric.
Okay,
which is what happens. So truly asymmetric. I mean, that's one of the things that, you know, we could get into another discussion about that too. I think that can go really wrong no matter where you do it. But I know there's some good tabletop examples of it, and I can't really think of any just right off the top of my head on the electronic side that are really, really impressive overall.
Right.
There've been some that I've been like, I love this.
Yeah. But
then I go out and it has low scores, and then they never made a sequel, and then they turn the servers off, and it's like, you know, because the market didn't like it. But I'm sitting there going, but this was my favorite thing. Talking about Anthem. But you know what I'm saying? Well, okay, to be fair, that really isn't a lot there. What is there is great, but there's just not a lot of game there. So again, we'll go off. But I'm just saying, So again, that's one of the hallmarks. Things that build in variability, things that break the leather in, right?
Well, and again, I just to kind of come back to it as from a consumer standpoint, and I think both Larry and I are saying the same thing, just from different angles.
We really are.
Like understand, open your mind to the possibility that just because a game doesn't have loads of content doesn't mean the experience will not be enjoyable.
And I'm gonna go this far to say, open your mind to the fact that just because a game doesn't have what you recognize as loads of content, it really does.
And absolutely, because again,
if it does, it's there.
The content, but ultimately the content is you. Like you are the content.
Right.
You each time as you grow and you get better and you find new ways
you go
to
deeper.
play.
Yeah.
Right. You are the content.
Right. And I think again it's something we have to push back on because again it's the same thing. And I'm a heavy electronic gamer. I'm not putting my creds out there, but I guarantee you I can stack them up against pretty much anybody except for YouTubers and be like, oh yeah, no, he does play electronic games because I do. But a lot of the propensity there is, you get into your set mechanics, you get into the way you play it, and you just stay there. And I think a lot of that, like you said, you perfectly put it, open your mind. They're getting stuck. I want to do this the way I always do. I'm not going to engage with you differently, welcome to, because I looked at it and I'm just going to try to build my houses 1 to 12 all the way up. I'm not engaging with the other stuff and I think that comes again from the electronics. I think they're part of it, not just electronic board games, but even just the pace of today's society even. Where they're like, look, this is the first thing that came to me. This is what I'm going to do. And if it doesn't come and meet me here, if I don't get this big, huge experience, never mind. You're only doing a sliver of what's available to you. And you're expecting the game to open up. It's not going to. You as a player, like you just said, you have to open up. You have to open up. So you go at it as you learn it. It's okay to play in a small part that first couple of times, but adventure outside your comfort zone.
Well, and
so much there.
One of the things that I was really kind of alluding to when I was saying you are the content is because board games are so social and are played with people. Like I remember,
or robots.
Yeah, or robot. But I mean, ultimately, like I can remember specific play sessions with specific people, and so there is this new like that, and they change. Like your table group changes, and so the experience of a game changes.
Yep.
So when I say you are the content,
yeah,
like open your mind to the fact that the social element is a crucial piece to the game, not just like extra cards and
right.
or spaces that you can flip a tile and therefore it gives you something new, or
right.
you randomize all of the starting locations and all of that.
Right.
You don't need that. Like again, this is a social hobby,
right?
And that is almost more important than the game itself,
right? And social in a different way. Not saying that electronic games aren't social, because they are too. Mm-hmm. But we're talking a total different mechanic from what you just said than another guy showing up holding a different weapon than you'd hold,
right? Or
another guy in another lane, he's taking care of the creep. I mean, yeah, that's social too. But again, what you just said is totally different. You guys are both taking part in the same narrative, trying to reach a certain goal. On the tabletop side, you're sharing the overall experience by design. Yeah. So
I think we've talked this one. I feel like you and I have looked at the engine under the hood and said, that's what's wrong. Here's how to fix it. Now go to some other shop.
Pretty sure I need to put some more spark plugs on it, but okay.
That's yeah. Let me get some WD-40. You should be good.
But guys, no. So yeah, when you get the opportunity, just open up your mind to it. And I'm excited. I like this topic, man. I could go on and on about this.
I know. That's why I'm trying to end the segment.
But you the one brought it up.
Yeah, but you don't want to keep on talking.
And you created the segment.
You took the customer's car and you kept on driving. It's like that.
One more test drive. Break.
And we're back.
Ooh, almost. Ooh. Didn't quite nail it.
I missed it by that much.
So this time we're going to take a deeper look, and this is a segment that we've had on the list for a while, and I want us to get more into it. Basically what, Alex, we're going to pick a game from our collection and just do a little bit of a deeper dive, just the way we see the title. Our experience with the title, not necessarily a review, but we may speak to the mechanics. We may not. We may just talk about our experiences with it. And
we're talking about the game. It's like it's one of our children.
Right. We're gonna talk about the game.
This one Billy. Listen, and that one's Cinderblock.
And we will talk about any challenges if there are any in getting the title, because like I said, we're going in our collection, so we may be digging deep. I don't think either one of us went particularly deep this time.
Nah.
Well, no, mine is available too, so we should be good to go. So it won't necessarily be all new hotness, but I think one of them is.
Yeah, one of them is.
Alex, get us rolling, sir.
Well, and I honestly, now that I think about it, I kind of used half what I was going to talk about earlier when in the intro. I was so excited about it. But that my game is Summoner Wars. The game itself is really simple. It's just a giant grid that's split in half for 2 players. And you take a particular faction. The base set comes with, I think, 6 pre-made decks, but it does offer rules for deck building, which I always love. The idea that you can start with something like, here is this fine-tuned, but feel free with go be wild, and it has both in mind. But summoners, so basically you have a summoner and you put them on the board, and then you have a couple of summoning spots, and then you draw cards and you spend mana and you put the guys out there. But what happens is that each card can only move, like, I think 2 spaces. And so the card is the actual piece on the board. And so they move within the grid, and you look at it and you go, there's not much to that, but the interactions are fun and it's goofy, but it's that perfect, like, it's not that diff, because Magic has so many interactions, like, will you do this to trigger that and this and this. But Summoner Wars, they're like, okay, let's get a little bit of that, a little bit of the combo, a little bit of the strategy, these each play differently, have a different style. But ultimately, let's, have an opportunity to kind of be tactile and tactical at the same time. And so it was really simple. And now, kind of to go back to my story, was like, I bought it when my youngest son, or my oldest son, was really young, and was just like, I had this grand idea that I could take it to a game night at Roll the Dice, and somebody would just be like, absolutely. Yeah, and it never saw the table, maybe once. And at that point, I was at like, give me the next game as fast as possible. And like, nothing would really satisfy or itch, because I was just jonesing for the next thing. Give me the next thing. Give me the next thing. Give me the next thing. And now that I've slowed down my collecting, and I learned to appreciate mechanics and appreciate games, that's one I just kept coming back to. This is one, like, I know people who'd be willing to sit down and really just fill this out with me. And so for the longest time, I mean, again, 2 or 3 years, I kept looking for another copy to trade for, to purchase, and they just started getting astronomical. And so this is a game that I just, like, I'm excited that they're re-releasing it, because there's going to be some support there. But it's not because it's the new hotness that it's coming into my collection. Like, this was a me getting a lucky break. I mean, Plaid Hat could have just been like, oh, I know Alex is looking for this. Let's just go ahead and reissue this. Now, I will say that in their favor, they are making a digital implementation of this game as well. You can actually pre-order and get kind of a both and thing. So they're making it in multiple markets, which kudos for them. But this is one of those really fun, just sit in front of a buddy and say, okay, take this deck, don't do anything to it. Here's how you play. You do this, you do this, you do this. Let's go. And then you could just have a really cool little engaging match that plays out different every time because of how you move on the board, and that, opposed to, like, something that's like Seven Wonders Duel, where the game state doesn't necessarily alter as you were playing through it. And I don't know. I mean, that's really I just wanted to tell people this is my personal feelings on this game. So I don't know how deep of a look or dive that was, but it is.
Compared with what you did at the top.
Yeah,
that's good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you put those two things together, you've got a killer segment, Larry. Killer.
No, we're not going to cut that out the top. We're going to leave it where it is.
Oh, fair
enough. So I'm going to talk about mine, and I've got a little bit more. I'm probably about the same in terms of just kind of waxing poetic on it. And I'll go on and get the game out there. I've mentioned it before, I know, on the show, because I'm fond of it. But I'm going to take a look at Dragon Valley, which this is designed by C.W. Karstens, and it was published by Diamond K Games. It was initially released in 2012 via Kickstarter, and my little story on it is that this is the first game that I kickstarted, and CW himself reached out to me on Kickstarter, no, not on Kickstarter, sorry, on BGG, not that he knew me, and I'm assuming that I was probably one of a group of people. One of my favorite games is San Marco, and San Marco it's probably the only current true Grail game on my list. I just need to go on and buy it. But anyway, I was a fan of it, and I'm assuming he probably went in because the fandom I remember of that game back then wasn't that big. So he probably just went in and hit us all, is what I'm thinking. But basically, the way he sent the email, the message on BGG was, hey, I see that you're a fan of San Marco. I've got a new Kickstarter coming that uses that mechanic. The mechanic is unique. It's unique enough to where he was probably able to pull in on that. And I almost deleted it without thought, thinking, this guy spammed me on my personal BGG. But I stopped because I was getting ready to delete it. I said, you know what? I'm going to go and look. And if this is garbage, I'm going to block this dude. But I went out and I looked at what he had going on. The game is Dragon Valley. And I'm thinking, oh, wait a minute. It looks exciting. And he was right, because the mechanic, for those of you who don't know, it is you separate, I pick first mechanic in the gameplay. So basically, when you get some of the resources, the way it works in San Marco, and here, let's say you and I were playing just a 2-player game. San Marco, I think, is 3 to 7. This one we'll play from 2 to 5, I believe, 2 to 4 or 5, I believe. And what happens is, if you and I were playing on the turn, the things that we get, they're cards that we get, they're cubes that you pull from the bag that represent units, both good and bad. They're all mixed up in the bag together. And there are a few some buildings that you would get to. We would pull all of that. Let's say if you were pulling it and you were the person, you were the chosen one. They call it the Castellan, I believe, or Castilian. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong in the game. So you pick everything. We both see it. And we look at these cards you picked and the cubes. Oh, man. Then you split them into 2 piles. The only rule is each pile has to have at least 1 item. That's the only rule. So you're doing 2 piles. You can't put everything in 1 pile and be like, it's just 1 pile and I pick first. You can't do it that way. You put them in 2 piles and then I get to pick first. Because you split them up. So when you're playing with 3 players, it's the same thing. One person is picking, the other 2 are choosing. The person with the lowest score chooses first. Then the other person, then the person who split them up always chooses last. And again, that mechanic was used in San Marco. It was first time I played it was in San Marco, and I thought it was brilliant. Well, it is here. It's implemented very well. But something that's funny, I looked at, for the first time working on this, I looked at the video. It's Sam Healy and Tom Vassell sitting at a folding table with sagging shelves behind them 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Just the 2 of them talking about Dragon Valley. I missed it back then. I never saw their review back then. And they talked about it, and they hit on some of the things that I like. Now, they did talk about the length of game. And again, for me, you know me, that doesn't bother me. Because when you do the you choose, I pick thing, sometimes it takes a minute. You do need to know that in terms of what's value. Both of you. It works best when you know, as the person who's choosing first and the person who's splitting first. Because if there's something that you want, what you're trying to do is you're trying to entice me to take the other pile. But you've got to be able to set it up in a way that where I don't know that. And you're looking maybe at my board selection and you're seeing what's going on and you're thinking, oh, okay, well, let me just put this one thing over here. Larry's sure to go after that. And I'm going to put a few other things over here. Those are kind of garbage. And then I'm going to give myself something that looks negative, but I can deal with him and maybe he'll stay away from this. And I love that part about it. But one of the things that they pointed out that I never thought about, it's an early example of a tower defense board game. Because of the way that the creeps basically are coming in from the middle of the board. The board is beautiful. I've got pictures of it. I'll put them up. I think the production of this one is fantastic. Looking at the box, it kind of reminds me of those games that we were playing in Dustin's closet, a little bit. But you have to remember, those games are newer.
Yeah.
This game is 12 years old.
Yeah. Speaking of, we still have a couple of those that we need to get to.
We'll do it. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
But I think the game is neat. I've only played it a couple of times. I loved it. The first time I played it, it's hard to get used to it. It seems like there's a lot going on. You can do the tower defense portion, or you can go out and attack. It's difficult to do both. The monsters reside in the middle, and they're coming from the middle. You can send your troops up there and try to stop them. Now, they're still going to come because when you're pulling them out of the bag, they set at the mountain pass. So you can't block them. But the tiles in the middle are worth more victory points. And basically, you're trying to get to 30 points. The first one to get to 30 points. You get points for knocking creeps off of the mountain at certain spots. There's a certain row in everybody's kingdom where if you knock creeps off, you'll get 4 points every time that happens. But also, too, there are certain points, if they just get to those points, they take off a point on your score track. Big, huge board. It's a 6-fold board. It's huge. It's a huge board. It's printed fantastic. The book on it, the rule book on it, is very comprehensive. It's a wall of text. I didn't recognize or think anything of it 12 years ago because you know me, I'm propensity for wall of text. But looking at it about today's standards, I was like, oh, yeah, there's no pictures in this.
Yeah, this man don't know what he's doing.
This is just a wall of text. It's fantastic, though.
It's part of his tower for the tower defense.
And really, it seems like it. In terms of the information that's there, I know I haven't talked a lot about the game, but guys, the game is available. It's actually very reasonable. You can get it at a couple of different places. I went out there and found it. I just put in Dragon Valley. Now, I will say this, too. This one has a subtitle, and you need to know what it is. It's Dragon Valley Rise of Corundia, because there is a game, and this was 2012. There's a game in 2014 called Dragon Valley that's also on BGG. There, not this one. It's a happy little box with a cute little cartoon dragon, and I have no idea what that game is about. I'm not talking about that one. This one has amazing, evocative fantasy art on the cover. And it what's in the box is fantastic. If you kind of like the tower defense thing, but you're not like just dying, into it. If you're not a diehard tower defense person, because it's kind of light on that, even though it is there, the element is there. This one has a lot to do. This is one where it's got a lot to do. Like, what's the one we played where we, the game we played from Dustin's Dungeon, the one that I ended up buying, where you had the armor, the seasons, where we had the seasons.
Oh, I don't remember the name. It's like, it started with an N.
It's sitting on my shelf too.
Yeah.
But this one strikes me as that. This one may be a little bit deeper than that, but that one was so surprising when we opened it up. You explained it to me. I'm looking at the production going, okay, it's, lower tier. It was a Kickstarter. But then we played it and I'm like, I bought it. At the end, the bottom line is when he's like, Dustin kind of wants to give it, okay, I'll buy it. Because there's so much depth in the box. This is one of those, quite a world in this box.
Yeah.
There's quite a world in this box. Again, it's Dragon Valley by C.W. Karstens. Actually, it was done by Diamond K Games, which I think was his company at the time. Guys, if you get a chance to play this one, let's see what this one, if you like tower defense, it's unique. And our last segment goes along with this one for sure. For one, there are quite a few systems to grapple with, but once you get them, they're pretty simple. It's just a lot of them. But this is one where you need to give it some time. If you give this one some time, it will blossom in front of you and probably astound you. It is that good of a game. Again, Dragon Valley, that's one. It's a deeper look. It's always going to be fun to me because, again, first game I kickstarted on a new platform called Kickstarter. I've got that email. I meant to pull it up. It's hilarious. I still have it saved. Yes, it's from 2012. I don't get a lot of email on BGG. It is what it is. But good stuff, Mr. Alex. Sir, I think that is...
Wow.
We have made it to the end of another episode. Everyone, thank you for spending time with us. We've got some really exciting stuff coming up. Summer of Games is brewing. We got some RPG goodness coming, and we're going to sit down and play a legit TTRPG. And guys, we appreciate all your time and that you're coming and you're spending it with us. Wherever you are, keep playing games. Have a great time. This is Larry Neal for The Spoken Token saying, keep communicating.
And this is Alex Wallace saying, keep playing. This has been the Spoken Token Podcast. If you'd like to interact with us, please contact us through email at thespokentokenpodcast@gmail.com, on Instagram at The Spoken Token Podcast, on Twitter at The Spoken Token, or on Facebook at The Spoken Token Podcast. And you can reach us through our BGG Guild, number 2656.
You are listening to a Pod Studio One Podcast Network podcast. Find more great podcasts at www.podstudio1.com.